any further ado, I would like to introduce Tony. Tony Eads. I hope I said the name right.
You did.
Yeah, so Tony is a brand futurist and chief strategy officer of Salted Stone based in Australia. Tony has something amazing for us today. He has a lot of experience, he's a seasoned marketing expert. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has for us. So Tony, without further ado, please take it over.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Vanessa, and good afternoon, I believe, across South Africa. It's later in the evening here. I'm coming to you live from Sydney, Australia. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I've got a presentation to show you, but thanks, as I say, for joining me. A lot of stuff I want to share with you with the next hour that we have together, and then obviously be available for questions thereafter. So today's masterclass, I wanted to cover off something I'm calling the new marketing playbook. There's a lot of things happening, as we know, around the world. We're all kind of challenged a lot with uncertain economic times, the impact of a pandemic called COVID across the world, and also just changing technology platforms have kind of enabled us to kind of rethink the way that we work and rethink our marketing, and hence the reason for the new marketing playbook. Just a quick little bit about myself. So I work for a company called Salted Stone. We're a digital marketing agency. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Salted Stone, based, as I mentioned before, in the Sydney office. We have offices across the world there, not only in APAC, which is obviously Sydney and Melbourne, and also Cebu in the lovely Philippines, but also in Los Angeles. And just as at the beginning of this year, before COVID hit, we opened up our office in Dublin in Ireland. 70 plus team members across the group, and we're the only elite partner for a platform called HubSpot. We're also Salesforce partners, Shopify, BigCommerce partners, a number of different technology stacks that we're part of, but HubSpot being one of the main ones that we actually work with. I wanted to kind of kick off tonight with just a kind of a mind shift, if you like. For those of you that are soccer fans, or football, if you call it, where you're from, certainly in England, where I'm originally from, we call it that. But a picture can say 1,000 words, right? And I think to see something like this, a really happy kind of a group of people. This was actually in 2005 at the Champions League final. And this is, of course, the very popular red team, Liverpool Football Club. And the Reds were ready to win their 5th European Cup in the unluckiest of circumstances. It was in Istanbul for this particular final. And they were up against a really world-famous team called AC Milan, who were strong favourites to actually win and take over the trophy. Anyway, they went in, and by half-time, the Reds, as you see here, were 3-0 down. And it was just something that happened, which is why I'm sharing it with you, that happened during the break, I suppose, in the halftime break, that they went from a team that was playing not to lose, kind of playing on the ropes a little bit, to a mind shift to a team that was playing to win. And very soon after coming back, within the first few minutes, they'd scored a couple of goals. And by full time, it was 3-0 each to both sides. So it went into a penalty shootout. Inevitably, through the penalty shootout, eventually Liverpool won. So to come from 3-0 down with a mind shift that could just mean, okay, we've lost, let's just play out the game, they continued and actually ended up winning the championship in that particular era of 2005. Probably one of the best games of football that's been known today. But the main thing to share with you was that shift, and something that I'd like us all to think about is changing that shift right now from a mindset of playing not to lose to a mind shift of playing to win. And when we change that mind shift to playing to win, that means that we're going to play with a mindset of winning, and therefore changing the way we think about everything today, and certainly the way we think about how we're going to kind of move forward. So let's just have a look quickly about history, how we came today. If we forget about COVID and a pandemic around the world just for a second, we've kind of become this conversational marketing stuff. But it's, if we go back to how things started, if we go back to 1980, we had the old computer. We probably, if for those of you who can remember on the call, the ping pong, or Pong as it was called then. And then Google sort of came out and started to transform the way we communicated, or the way we looked for content. Smartphones sort of started to show there, the old BlackBerry here, started to give us ways of messaging in the 2000s. And then by the 2010s, we started using apps. And apps brought us closer together. We were using apps quite continuously. And then as we moved into kind of 2016 and into where we are today in the 2020, we're using a lot of these communication kind of apps, ways to communicate, to connect people together. You know, millions of users using everything from WhatsApp to Facebook Messenger and a bunch of others around the world. As you can see, this whole chat thing has just continued to grow. So I think one of the things we need to start by thinking about is we are moving more into this conversational way. It's more of a two-way conversation. It's more of an engagement with our personas, with our customers, with each other. And I'm going to share some of that with you as we get into the new marketing playbook. But the first thing we need to start with is what I call a persona focus. So who is it really that we're working with? How well do you know your prospects? How well do you know your customers? How well do you know your market? One of the things that's changed dramatically has been this old model, the old traditional model of the slow, bumpy, and expensive. So the slow, bumpy, and expensive model, and one of my speaking mates, Guillermo Pereira, talks about this kind of shift in the way we do business, has shifted from this old model of full service, open 9 till 5 and buy first. This almost friction-driven way of doing business, you know, trying to offer everything to everyone in a full service, only being open 9 till 5 and closed for lunch on Saturdays. And then this buy first mentality, buy from me first, and then you can experience the product. It's changed. That's the old model. The new model is this fast, flat, and free world that we live in. And if we transform that back, it's into a fast, which is self-service. It's customers that want to be able to service themselves, access your product or your service, and self-service. It's about having more of a flat model, a flat playing field, open 24/7. So people are shopping at any time of the day. They're not shopping 9 till 5. They're not looking for content or solutions 9 till 5. So we need to be open 24/7. And then we need to think about trying first. What can we give customers? What can we share with customers first to get them to buy in to our way of doing things? And then from there, sell to them and then become a trusted customer from them. The reason we do this is really because today's buyer is smarter, more informed than ever before. The fact is that, you know, because of the assets out there that they have access to, the Googles of this world, the web at their fingertips, mobile devices connected at every point of their journey, that today's buyer knows exactly what they want and when they want it. And as a brand and as a business, we have to make sure that we're there when they're ready for us, when they're ready to buy from us, when they want it and what particular they want. So one of the things is, you know, how well do we know our buyer? You know, if this is your particular buyer, this is my typical millennial slide, looking in, inquiring, very interested in terms of what's happening, but very inquisitive. You know, who are our buyers? How well do we really know our customers? How many times do you really sit back and think about the customers that you have? How many times do you focus? Do you focus group your customers? Do you survey your customers? Are you still dealing with customers that you dealt with from 20 years ago, thinking that they're the same type of customers that buy from you today? So let's understand that our customers are buyer personas. Let's spend some time thinking about the true persona that we work with, not just the demographic. This is an example of one of our personas. This is Mary the marketer. So we know Mary so deeply, so intimately, because we know the demographic, we know what company size she kind of works for. But the main thing is what makes Mary love us or want to work with us is because she loves learning about a topic that we're very passionate about called inbound marketing, and you'll hear some of that today. We also know that Mary loves us because we provide the tools that she can use that make her life easier. So we're about making Mary's life easier. We're also about making Mary's life better for her in her workplace because we give her great reports and data that she can then share as a marketer back with her sales teams and her key stakeholders. And why do we know so much about Mary? Because we've done the research. We've done the research on the right-hand side. We understand her goals. We understand her challenges, her common objections to, you know, the typical Marys of the future, why they don't go ahead with us, specific problems that we're here to solve for her business, and also, more importantly, the process of buying. What does she go through every step in a typical Mary the marketer, because we want more Marys. We want to work with more Mary marketers because they're a good fit for our business. Once we kind of know the buyer persona, we can measure the data, the engagement of how our persona activates. So we use models like lead scoring. You can see on the right-hand side. Lead scoring helps us measure how active a buyer or engaged buyer is. Because Mary could be at an early part of her engagement with us, just purely searching for solutions, just gathering information, kind of really at the top of the funnel. Or she could be very engaged and she could be looking at everything that we have to offer, going to every page, big conversion pages, looking at our pricing, reading our blogs. Every time Mary interacts with us, we're giving her a score. And once that score reaches a certain level, so we've done this scoring model, we reach a certain level, she passes straight through to our sales team. And our sales team will reach out to this Mary based on the fact that she is an active buyer, not a passive buyer, and have that conversation. Without Mary even having to have that conversation with us, we're going to reach out to encourage her to have that conversation with us. So once we know about people, like in our case, Mary, but in your case, whatever your customer persona is, we need to understand by using data how many people fit into that priority number one box, who's interested and a good fit for us. They're the people that the sales team need to work with. They're interested and they're a good fit. If they're a bad fit and they're not interested, and we can tell because they're not engaged in any of the data that we send off. We do an EDM, we do a newsletter, these people don't open it, they never share anything. We know they're just not a good fit. Why ever live in hope of keeping them on your database that they may ever change? Remove the prospect. They're not a prospect. It's a wrong terminology. But those that are a good fit but at the moment not interested, or those that are potentially a bad fit but they are interested, will potentially become in the priority box of interested and a good fit. So they're the prospects, those two squares there that we need to nurture. We need to bring into our system. We need to use workflows, nice content to help just gently move them through the buyer journey so that when they get to the point at their own speed, when they're ready to buy from us, then we can start to contact and reach out. So one of the things we really focus on at Sorted Stone and we focus on with our customers is really moving away from the flywheel. Moving away from the funnel. The funnel itself is, as you can see on the left-hand side, is really kind of a little bit out of date. And some of the fundamentals, the things that are wrong with the funnel are the fact that marketing trims down into sales, trims down into customers. It also looks at the folk that the actual, at the end of it, the customers is where it finishes. And we all know that's where the relationship really begins. So there's a lot of flaws with the old traditional funnel. So we've created what we call the flywheel. And the flywheel is a much better way in today's frictionless world that we're trying to create, where everybody works together. The marketing team seamlessly leads onto the sales team. The sales team seamlessly onto the service team. The customers are customer-centric. They're in the center of everything. In fact, when we work closely with our clients, we worked with sales and marketing teams together as one. We call them the smarketing team. These guys are the team that actually are the revenue raisers for the business. The client doesn't really care whether they're dealing with the marketing team, the sales team, or the service team for that matter. They're dealing with the brand. And that's what's important to them. So we need to seamlessly hand over a prospect to a customer to go through this whole process and to keep the flywheel spinning. Because like any flywheel, the faster it spins, the more energy it creates and the more it drives your business further. If we gather that up, if you've got marketing, sales, and service, as you can see in this kind of diagram here with contacts sitting in the middle, we're then going to wrap around the traditional kind of buyer journey, which is attract, convert, close, and delight in this kind of seamless circular model. And then at the end of it, if we look at the traditional kind of way that we market, strangers become visitors, visitors become leads, leads become customers, and customers ultimately become our brand promoters. They're the brand ambassadors, the people that are going to go out there, tell more people about their experience, and do the selling, do the promotion for us. And then what's going to happen? More people are going to hear about it, and they're going to come back into the mix as strangers again, become visitors and leads, and so it goes on. Once again, the faster it spins, the more energy it creates, and the more growth it propels for our business to move forward. I mentioned the buyer journey before, and I think just to pause on that for a second, I think one of the things that we tend to not do that often is really understand that people go through 3 key stages of any buyer journey. Without going into too much detail, at a high level, they spend a lot of time at the awareness stage. The awareness stage is just that I'm not sure that I've got a problem. I may have an issue. I'm not sure if I even need a solution right now. It's information gathering. It's about education. So at that point, we need to get them into our funnel. At this stage, we might be giving them some kind of an offer. We might be asking, hopefully, to try and engage with them a little bit to at least get a first name, last name, and an email, just so that we know that they're in our mix, they're in our database. The consideration stage is one of the most important stages for marketing. It's also where our sales team start to have the first touch point with a particular prospect in a buyer journey. Consideration is the middle of the funnel. It's this stage where people are weighing up the options. They're considering, okay, I realize now that I do have some kind of issue I need fixing, and I'm now looking at my options. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? Do I prefer go with this provider, or do I go with that provider? And then the final stage is what we call decision, or bottom of the funnel in the traditional way. Decision means I'm one step away from buying. It doesn't mean I'm ready to buy. It's what we would call in terminology an SQL. If consideration is an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, then a decision is an SQL, a sales qualified lead. It doesn't mean that they're qualified for sales. It means they're qualified to speak to sales. For them to do the further qualification into the final 2 stages, which is opportunity and then customer. So the reason that we do this is because the conversation is totally different at a decision stage buyer as it is to an awareness stage buyer, because they're at different stages. Their needs are different and the communication level is different. So we need to really think about how we map out this journey. And this is some work that we do. So on the left-hand side is a buyer journey mapping. On the right-hand side is a user journey or a user flow. The user flow is more about your online experience, your website. Most people will end up at some point on your website from the marketing that you put out. And that has to follow within the buyer journey how the user flows through your website to keep coming out at the other end. On the left-hand side, the buyer journey, if you can see that on the screen there, kind of shows you that, we start off with things like social media engagement, SEO. We're putting stuff out there above the funnel, and then we're bringing people in at the awareness stage. And then, as you can see, we're kind of working on what is our goals that we want for each one. So there's some figures that are probably too small to see in this screen, but you can understand that each one of those levels, the gray, the pink, and then the yellow, is actually showing us the different stages and the different KPIs, how we're going to measure success at different levels of the buyer journey. So the visitors, the leads, and then the MQLs, and then further down off the screen are the SQLs. And once we know how we're going to engage, we then want to know how much we want to engage, and then we want to measure everything to see how successful our campaigns are. I think one of the important things is to realize, because we're having a different conversation at a different time in the buyer journey, content is different. So the content that you're putting out at the awareness stage are things like your blog posts, your social media, things like podcasts that you might be putting videos out, obviously your SEO, because that's what people are using to search for you, to find you in the first place. Once they turn into this consideration from a visitor into a lead, we then need to be thinking about landing pages, especially through our website, content offers that are relevant to the middle of the funnel, and lead scoring, as I mentioned before. Once we've identified them as a lead based on their engagement with our content, we then need to nurture them down, nurturing them into becoming a customer at the time that they want to become a customer. And we do that through marketing automation, using content offers, again, contact forms and calls to action, as well as workflows. So workflows that naturally lead them when they download something to softly give them more content, relevant education, whatever is needed to help them naturally move to the customer stage of the buyer journey. And then finally, it doesn't stop there. Emails, further offers that are more geared to a customer rather than a lead, and social media. All of that kind of stuff keeps the customer retained and turns them inevitably into the most important thing, which is a brand ambassador. So they can go out and tell more people about the success and the experience that they have with our business and our brand. One of the big things is with this is that you can't do all of what I'm showing you manually. You could, but you'd be here forever and a day. It would be a full-time job plus if you were to do things manually. So one of the things that sits in the background of every business is what's called a CRM, a customer relations manager. And this customer relationship manager, the one I'm showing you on the screen here, just shows you how powerful data can be, how easy stuff can be automated and set up there. This is just an example from HubSpot. There's plenty of other CRMs out there, but if you haven't got a CRM in your business today, you need to get one. It's kind of like the foundation for everybody, the foundation for marketing, the foundation for sales, the foundation for your key stakeholders. And it is the essence of your customer communication and engagement. So think about how connected are you with your customers? How good is your CRM? How used is your CRM? How up to date is your CRM? The next section I want to talk about today is positioning. Positioning is, again, like if we know who our personas are and we've really identified who we're doing, who we're talking to, the next part of the puzzle is positioning, especially in this crazy uncertain world we're in now. Everyone's position slightly shifted. People have pivoted. They've changed their business model. They've had to adapt. Everybody has had to look for different things to do to stay relevant, to stay connected, to even stay in business. Because of some of the uncertainties that we're all faced with right now. So positioning is important, and a positioning refresh is something to consider. I put these three things up there because one of the most important things is your brand. Like, how well is your brand renowned? Like, have you invested in your brand? Maybe now is the time to really think about how powerful, how unique, is my brand? Or am I just really sitting in a sea of sameness with everybody else in my kind of market or vertical? These three brands, very, very strong. Without me even putting the names of these brands, you should recognize them. On the left-hand side is Uber. Uber is a business that's been set up and grown without owning any of its own vehicles. It's the world's biggest taxi company, and it owns no vehicles whatsoever. Airbnb in the center there, again, a huge success story around the world. And Airbnb owns no real estate. It's a complete new kind of new wave business that has been created on the needs of the customer. And then Google, of course, I threw that in there because, even Google can own a letter like the word G, and everyone knows it's Google. And they've changed that brand. This is their latest Google brand. Probably 2-3 years ago, they changed the look and feel of the G. Nobody really noticed because that is so powerful as a single figure to represent such a powerful brand as Google is. So when you think about your brand, think about what your brand actually is. A brand is what people say about you when you're not around. So what is your brand? While you're here today on this call, what is your brand saying when you're not there? When you're not to explain it, when your salespeople aren't in front of a customer, when you don't have the opportunity to explain your brand, what are people saying about you? That's your brand. That's the true essence of what a brand is all about. The great Simon Sinek, who talks about everything starts with why, and well worth checking out. Simon's TED video that he's got. You can search for that on YouTube. Simon says, if you sell what you do, you're a vendor. If you sell why you do it, you're a brand. So we need to also start thinking about, even more so nowadays as we go through this crazy pandemic, where we've all suffered. I think brands have become more real. Your brand needs to be more connected, more humanized than ever before. So by doing that, we need to think about what's the why behind the brand. What does your brand really stand for from a why aspect? If we look at some of the world's best brands, in fact, Apple being the most valuable brand as of 2019, a huge multi-billion-dollar brand is Apple. And we think, well, why is Apple such a fantastic brand? Well, if we go under the cover a little bit and we actually explore what is Apple's why, how did Steve Jobs set up the Apple brand based on a why, based on a passion and a mission? If we look at that, then we can look at what he actually meant. So Apple's why, if we start with why, reads like this. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. Their tagline is think different. How do they do this? They do this by making products that are simple to use, beautifully designed, and user-friendly. What? We just happen to make great computers. But if they went out there with the what, as most businesses do, and just said, we happen to make great computers, how different would they be to Dell and Microsoft and all the other big brands of computers, laptops, or whatever, or even phones? Even the how takes it a little bit further, making our products simple to use. Could Dell say that? Probably. Could Microsoft say that? Definitely. Beautifully designed and user-friendly. But the why is something that is true to Apple. The why is something that the Apple people own inside and believe in from internally within the company and externally. Customers like me, I've got my Apple Watch on, I use an Apple phone. I believe in this. So customers follow it, and the people that work for Apple follow the why, that everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking different. So how different are you thinking? How good is your why? How articulate is your why? How do your customers really buy into your business and what it stands for? And also, more importantly, your own people. They could be working remotely right now. We're in this world of pandemic and stuff with a lot of people working remotely. How connected do they still feel to the why of your brand and your business? And then think about your brand voice, like how consistent is your brand voice? This might have changed. Like with all the challenges that we're having right now and the uncertainties in the world, maybe our brand voice needs to be stronger. Maybe it needs to be softer. So what's the volume of your brand? Are you a whispered or softly spoken? Are you loud or in your face? What's the energy of your brand? Is it switched on? Are you manic? You know, sociability in your brand. Where do you fit on this kind of grid? Are you in a circle or customer and friends? And the attitude. Are you still safe and conventional, or are you becoming a little bit more unconventional these days, and even to one extent polarizing? The importance of the brand voice is that everybody that works for your brand knows what the voice is. So it's consistency, it's brand strategy, and it's brand consistency. So it's important that having this little workshop to do with your people and anybody that works for your brand, from marketing even to sales, is that you're speaking from the same song sheet, and this is the voice of your brand. It's just one element of a great brand. There's so many things to think about. You know, a lot of people, speak to me and they think a brand is just a logo. There are all these things on the screen today. It's the brand promise. It's that why we just talked about. What's the tagline? Thinking differently. What's your brand identity? You know, the logo, the identity that you're seeing. What's your image in the marketplace? When people think of your brand, what image do they feel? Are you professional? Are you expensive? Are you cheap and cheerful? What is your brand image? What's the strategy behind your brand to take you from where you are now to where you want to be 5 years from now? And then positioning. Where are you positioned in the marketplace right now? Is it where you want to be? Do you want to play in the blue ocean strategy or the red ocean where you're playing now with everybody else? And then finally, and more importantly, is the brand management. You can go anywhere in the world and you will see one red color of Coca-Cola. It's brand management. Make sure that once you have your brand solid, you protect it, because any slight change to your brand can cheapen it, can fragment it, and devalue it. We do this as well where we look at competitors. So part of that is also looking at your positioning. So plot your competitors on this competitor matrix. Has things maybe shifted nowadays? So we look at this from an actual consumer perspective. So pick your 5, 6, 7, or 10 customers that might be out, or competitors that are out there, and think about how are they perceived in the marketplace from a high price to a high quality. So high quality, high price is the top right quadrant, and as you can see on the bottom left quadrant is the low quality, low price. Where are these people playing? And then once you've scattered them out, you then need to decide where you are playing right now. So you put yourself on where you are right now, and then where you want to be in the future. You might be happy with where you are now based on positioning for everybody else. Or you may decide that based on this scenario, everybody's playing in the center part safely. You want to move yourself out to be perceived more as a higher price, higher quality alternative to the other competitors on the market. So just think about, where do you want to play? You've got so many opportunities nowadays. Like, as I said before, the marketing playbook has changed. Everything we knew about marketing is out the door. Most of it. There's still some basics there. So because of that, now's the time to try new things. Now's the time to challenge the norm and do things. Think different, like Apple, and move yourself into maybe a different quadrant. And as we do that, keep thinking back to what I showed you before, like what is the friction that you're going to remove? If you remove some point of friction in the whole process, that's how it should be. That friction, by removing friction on any part of the buyer journey, will help things move smoothly through that and start to create that frictionless flywheel that we looked at earlier. So now let's get into the playbook. Like the playbook being reimagined. Like we've got some of these elements about our positioning, we've looked at our persona, but what indeed is our playbook? Like what is this thing? I've called it a playbook for a reason. Instead of a marketing blueprint or a business plan, I think we need to have a bit more fun. Life is too serious. We need to have a playbook. The other thing I like about the word playbook is it changes. The game plan changes. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what this time next year is going to bring. So having a playbook, the same way as the guys use it in a game of soccer, it's forever changing. The game is moving. The playing field is shifting. So we want a playbook that is a bit of fun, but we actually want to be able to change it as we move through. So the first thing we need in our playbook is we need to realize, as we have spoken about, is that messenger and conversational marketing is such an important part of our marketing playbook. So we need to think about, if we're not playing at the moment on those messenger apps, we're not using WhatsApp, we're not using Facebook Messenger, we need to start thinking about it. We need to start thinking about how do we communicate more effectively with our customers by using chat, because chat is becoming the center of the universe, especially on our mobiles, because it's just so easy to chat with people. You know, whether you're using even, platforms like Slack, it's so easy to have instant communication, instant two-way communication. People won't sit around necessarily waiting for you to email them back. So how are you using chat in your new marketing playbook? Chat is important. People want to have conversations with you and they want to have them now. They don't want to be waiting and waiting for you to reach out to them to have a chat. We then, in our marketing playbook, need to think about, like I showed you before, the whole buyer journey. So if we start at the top of the funnel, that awareness stage, we need to think about our content. This is an interactive flip book, as we call it. Instead of an e-book, it's a flip book. The whole concept of this is that it is frictionless. It's easy to use. We can have hotspots on there where you can actually interact and make it a bit more interesting. But instead of me having to go through the traditional friction, which is to actually have a landing page, fill in my details, download a PDF of an ebook that then I have to kind of open up and read, quite cumbersome, hard to read on a mobile, try and read it when I can on a laptop. It's cumbersome, whereas this is interactive. It works on a mobile, it works on the laptop, it's informational and it's educational as well as engaging. The middle of the funnel or consideration stage needs to be more interactive. We need to start thinking about, how do we start doing things like this example I'm showing you for a company called RESMED. This is a free sleep assessment that we set up for RESMED. And as you can see here, people just get in there and they start using it. And it's basically a yes, no answer. It's scoring them. It's giving them an assessment on their sleep as part of RESMED, who are, a sleep health organization treating, sleep disorders like sleep apnea. People are filling in. The big test with this is we've tried this with this particular example, has 11 questions. We've tried this with more, 15, 20 plus questions. And in some cases it works better, not worse, with people thinking that the more questions they're answering, the more serious the result will be. But in actual fact, the first few questions really tell us the answer that we need to diagnose based on their results. In this case, you're a high risk, you could be a low risk or a mid risk. Each one of these will trigger off a series of workflow emails and help to nurture you in. So if you're a low risk, we're not going to tell you through RESMED that you need to be assessed for sleep apnea, but we are going to try and help you with your sleep health. So the whole idea is helping you with your sleep health and making sure everything works that way. So the instant result, as you can see here, the best thing about this kind of middle of the funnel offer that we have here is the fact that this middle of the funnel is really, really effective because it's two-way engagement, right? People can actually jump on this and they can use it. They haven't got to download that ebook and read it. They can actually start using it. These are the conversion rates. So just to show you, this is how this thing performs, to give you sort of a little peek under the hood. So greater than 40% conversion rate for this online sleep assessment. The industry average, by the way, for a landing page is just 4%. This is greater than 40%. The increased leads that this has generated for our clients and other clients like RESMED has seen leads triple, an increase of 150% in terms of the lead volume by adding in this middle of the funnel offer. And then customers, 25% of these leads have gone on to become customers of RESMED. So the sleep assessment is a free thing, but the actual product itself is basically doing a sleep trial is where they start to become a potential customer. But the main thing is, if you see at the bottom there, the final 10% go on to purchase long-term sleep therapy and treatment. So it's not only bringing people in and converting them into leads, but it's producing qualified leads that then become long-term customers. So just thinking about how do you engage with people at that middle of the funnel, think about things like calculators, things like assessment tools, because these are the things that are really working well in your new marketing playbook. This particular one I showed you was built on HubSpot. You can do them quite simply on other platforms. This is an example of one called Typeform. I think that its cost is about 30 US a month or something like that. And you can build countless small calculators, assessment tools. So check out Typeform and just start adding these into your website, adding these middle of the funnel consideration stage things that help people educate and help you capture that engagement at that middle of the funnel stage. And then finally, when you get to the bottom of the funnel, we need to be thinking about how easy is it? How do we remove the friction when I'm ready to engage with our sales team? So what we need to do is we need to allow people to access the calendar of our sales team. This is connected straight to the Google Calendar or the 360 calendar that they may have. They can fill in straight away. We can ask a few questions if we want to pre-qualify them to speak to sales, but they can literally go straight through there, fill in their details, and then basically click confirm. And this can be done 24/7 so that the next day the salesperson comes in and the calendar booking is already sitting in their calendar. It just gets locked into wherever there's a space in the calendar because it's seamlessly connected. But straight away, I'm in. I've done what I needed to do. I needed to speak to somebody. And as a customer or a prospect, I can move on knowing I finished it. Versus having to fill in a form and waiting for that person to call me whenever they can try and get hold of me, probably playing telephone tag as they try and reach me during the following day. So all of this comes together as well in a nice, neat little way, if you like, when we start looking at things like chatbots and live chat. So again, your marketing playbook in today's day and age should have live chat. I should be able to reach out to somebody in real time. If you're not available, then I should have the option for a chatbot and a conversational chatbot, as you can see here, that's basically taking me through a journey, taking me through a branched conversation. It can show me some content, for example, that may solve my problem, which is great. I could go off now and read that ebook if I wanted to, download it, whatever I need to do. In this case, I'm actually going to say that, was it really useful for me? No, it wasn't. So we want to make it sort of conversational. So we're going to come back and say, well, that's a shame that it wasn't. Now we want to try and book a meeting. So we're conversationally doing this automatically with our actual chatbot. Now we ask for their name and email address because before we hadn't built up the relationship. So we've now done that. We're now asking them where they're based. In this case, it's Sydney, and it's going to pull in the calendar of a good-looking guy. Here he is, straight into my calendar and booking that meeting straight into my calendar. So next day I come in and there's that 30-minute meeting waiting for me. Chatbots as well have come a long way. So chatbots, can be built into a number of different things. You can get some free chatbots online. If you want to test a chatbot out, if you haven't even played with a chatbot right now as part of your new marketing playbook, then go to drift.com. Drift are the front runners in actually creating really interactive and even AI-driven chatbots. But even just to see how a basic chatbot could work, you can do one for free. If you just go to drift.com and you put in your URL, it will take you through a chatbot and show you what that experience could look like on your website today with no cost. Well worth trying if you haven't got a chatbot in play yet, because this is the future. Conversational marketing is driven by things like this, chatbots. So some of the stuff that we kind of work with when we're working with our clients is all about think tanks. It's all about thinking around ideation. It's bringing your team together, because some of the people in your team that have the best answers and the best ideas are probably the people that never get asked. So try and think about bringing your teams together. And I'm talking sales and marketing, the frontline service people, bringing them in together and having like this think tank ideation session. And the way it works, as you can see, that we kind of run these sessions for clients all the time. And we do like an ideation cloud, which is that blue thing, where all the ideas are just put forward, random ideas that are then grouped together and then start to kind of form, as you can see on the right-hand side, epics, which is actually grouping them into stuff that, headings and topics that they all relate under. And then the yellow cards are starting to build out or flash out some of those wild ideas. So it might be the wildest idea that's the best one, but then you need to build out with the yellow cards, how are you going to execute it? How are you going to make this thing work? And then another one that we do is called Springboard, because what you want to do is take these ideas and bring them into this springboard concept. The springboard concept, as you can see, is basically two axes. One is high on impact. The other one's high on effort. Something that would be a high on impact but a low on effort is what we would call a quick win. So any of those ideas that you just did in the think tank, you would bring forward and say, to be honest, there's a couple of hours work. In fact, we've halfway through it. We left it 5 years ago. We could bring that up and revamp it and do it. Bang, straight into your quick wins. High impact, low effort. The stuff that you need to work on over longer term goes into your major projects on the top right-hand side. They're the high impact and the high effort. They're the stuff that you need to ultimately work towards, but that won't be done super quickly. And then the bottom two halves are really about things that you may need to do to back up a lot of stuff. So they might be low on impact and low on effort. So they're quick to do. They might help feed up into the quick wins, but there's things that you want to do. Things like your mission, your vision, your values, your why, all of that kind of stuff. They're actually a low impact at the end of the day, but they feed up to things that are a higher impact. And then the very bottom there, the high effort stuff that is still low impact, the thankless tasks, the stuff that you still need to do, thought leader stuff, promoting your execs as paid speakers, things like that, things that will actually lift your organization into a thought leadership kind of feel that eventually may turn into a high impact. But right now it might be lower on impact, but needs a bit more effort. So sort them into this grid, this springboard, if you like, that just helps you create an action plan to kickstart your new marketing blueprint. So the final stages in the last 15 minutes that I wanted to share with you was just how all of this comes together. I want to take you through some examples of a couple of really big digital transformations that we've done, just to kind of show you how you can bring some of this stuff together. The first one I want to show you is for a company where we actually did this in partnership with Facebook, where we actually were tasked with Facebook. They wanted to try out the idea of taking a display home kind of process, which is happens here, probably happens in South Africa, but certainly in Australia, where you can book in to have a look through a display home if you're planning on building a home. But the normal process that you're seeing on the screen now is a typical process. It's let's fill in the first name, let's fill in the last name, and then gradually fill in the form, and then wait for somebody to call us back. That's the traditional way. And also we ran some ads for this on Facebook because we wanted to run parallel campaigns to see the success of one over the other. So this was part A of the campaign. So you could see here that people would see a typical static ad on Facebook, and they would just click through to book a personalized walkthrough today. Now, one of the things that we wanted to make it a little bit different for both the two tranches, if you like, of this campaign was we thought, again, thinking about customers of this particular company, we thought, well, if I'm looking to go and have a look at a display home, most times display centers are open on the weekend on a Saturday and a Sunday. Because they're only open on those 2 days and most people are working Monday to Friday, everybody goes on the weekend. You can't move, people are everywhere. Certainly not great in COVID right now when you're supposed to be keeping your distance, but it's very, very busy. You can't talk to anybody. It's just not a great experience. So we thought, why don't we be one of the first kind of home builders to create a personalized walkthrough at a time that suits you. So the idea and the concept is pick a time outside and we will actually take you for a personalized tour of the home at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, whenever suits you and your partner to come and have a look at the home. So we ran these two ads in parallel. The display ad that you can see here pointing to a traditional landing page, telling them what time, but then having to wait for confirmation to come back from the salesperson. On the other side of the fence, the dual campaign that we ran with the same budget was a video-inspired campaign on Facebook, using the movie kind of trailer feel, the teaser of what's inside this new display center. So the idea of this is the kind of stuff you're going to see. Do you want to have a look inside? And again, the same kind of principle was, would you like to book a walkthrough today? The big difference with this one was that we were actually taking them through to a chatbot. As you can see, talk to our chatbot, he's got the keys. And people would click on this, and without taking them out of the platform, which was an important part, instead of going to the web page and a landing page, the conversation would happen within Messenger. It would happen within the platform itself. And as you can see here, the conversation just took people through. They asked them, which display center would you like to do? I'm the chatbot. I have the keys. Let's work through this together. They would then select, the two beautiful display homes that they had available. They could choose across each one. They could deep dive into it. They could view the home, have a look inside, get a bit of a teaser, if you like, of which home they wanted to do. And then they would say, right, this is the one that I'm really interested in. And then it would sort of start to take them down into the conversation to say, well, what time would you like to visit? I want to come at 6 p.m. It's just slightly outside normal hours. And then it would link them through, because obviously this is the chatbot guy. He has the keys, but he also has to organize someone to chaperone you to VIP to take you through. So this would then lead them on. So this works so much more successfully because it was so seamless. People could book in, they could talk to a chatbot, and they could do it there and then and meet the people rather than wait for someone to come back to them. A very successful campaign. As I say, we ran that in conjunction with Facebook. The second one I want to take you through quickly today is the RESMED digital transformation. So this was a really interesting one because what we did was we actually took RESMED from being a traditional B2B2C business to a direct-to-consumer B2C business. We wanted to enrich the user experience. So we built things like a support center and a help desk so people could go there every time they were thinking of buying a product or wanting to buy a product. So we used HubSpot's Service Hub for this and created this whole connected environment of live FAQs, support documents, and education. We completed an online booking and store locator, and we embedded live chat so people could have a conversation there and then off the website with people that could help. We redesigned their website. As you can see here, there's a little time clock in the top right-hand style. So what we wanted to do, and again, this was built on HubSpot's new CMS, what we wanted to do was we wanted to use personalization. So depending on what time you actually visited the site, it will tell you something different in the right-hand side. At this time, it was 6:50, and it's giving you a bit of a tip here. Hey, good evening. Probably if you're needing a coffee, try decaf. It's a little bit late to be trying a full-strength coffee. And it would have a bunch of these preloaded tips that would come in based on whatever time of the day, first thing in the morning, in the afternoon, whatever it was, again, to create this personalization. The other thing we did was we rethought the navigation. Every website has a standard navigation, and we thought, how could we make the user experience better? So we created what we call the Solutions Finder. And the idea here is that you would come in and say, well, I'm here. I need a solution for myself. What do you want to do? Well, I want to stop snoring. So you actually have a selection of what you wanted to do. And once you chose those little questions or answered those questions, it would automatically, in the bottom area there, pull the content from the website relevant to your search. So we're using HubDB, which sits in the back of HubSpot, a database-driven program with all the content for the website. So you could still search by traditional navigation, but in this case, you could actually search by solution and what you're looking for yourself or your partner, and then it would pull the data. This has worked tremendously well as well because it's released that friction, if you like, of trying to navigate a massive website like RESMED had. Also part of it, the sleep assessment tool you saw before, we took that to the next stage, created a mobile app, You could do a sleep score. You could do everything online. It obviously, we even did tests on how well you slept. It was a 14-day sleep challenge. So it was a bunch of interactive questions you could do over 14 days. And at the end of it, it would give you a sleep score based on how successfully you slept. But they would need to log in every day to tell us how they were going. And that would also, we'd give them tips for each night to help them sleep better. But we would also record, if they did have any potential sleep disorders as the time went on. The knowledge base, which I mentioned before, kind of sits in the back. That was the stuff that kind of gave people information about anything they might be looking at. Sleep apnea, snoring. They want to find out about insomnia. Like everything was in this knowledge base, again, built from HubSpot Service Hub, but everything that they could find just came from this database in the back. The brilliant thing was we had data and insights, so we could see who looked at what data, what topics were getting searched for the most. And based on that data, we could give people more information about what they were really, really interested in. But the most important part and the most exciting part for us was creating what we call the patient delight pathway. This thing, you can only see part of it, is actually an automated workflow or a journey, if you like, for a person once they became a customer or a patient in this stage for RESMED. This thing goes for 2 years whilst they're on the program. So it reminds them of things like, education about keeping the face mask kind of healthy and fresh, when to replace it, how to replace a filter, how to make sure that, you're getting the best suction from your face mask. It's all educational, and it's actually giving them all these tips as it goes. But what this has done is helped create repeat buyers, is to help create more retention for their customers. So this thing has been really, really well used. And again, it's automated. Like once someone becomes a customer, the automated patient pathway is triggered off, and it acts as that kind of delight platform that takes them through. So I suppose in closing, in the last few minutes, I just wanted to kind of share with you really where we've come from today in trying to create this new marketing playbook. This is kind of what we're faced with. This is the kind of the world that we see right now. But we need to change that mind a bit. We need to think about, well, yes, we have to deal with this. We have to deal with the challenges that we have, day in and day out. And who knows how long these challenges and this uncertainty is going to continue for. Our world looks like this. For those of you familiar with the Brady Bunch, it kind of feels like this: Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. We're on a different platform tonight, which is fantastic. But so many Zoom meetings. Everybody in our world is seen like this in tiny squares. But I think we need to start thinking about, with all these limitations, restrictions, there is opportunities. And I think the opportunities come from really thinking about, well, how can we change our mindset? How can we think differently? How can we, like Apple, think differently? How can we, like the Reds here for the Liverpool Football Club, how can we change our mindset from thinking like we're playing not to lose and just staying afloat and dealing with all those challenges that we have, to a mindset of playing to win? And when you change that mindset of playing to win, you're also going to change that mindset for a whole new marketing playbook. And that marketing playbook is really going to give you the edge to move forward, because these uncertain times are going to finish at some stage, and that new marketing playbook will become the marketing playbook that we all need to play by. But if you start now, you're going to be ahead of everybody else by adding some of these new ways of thinking and making our marketing more effective. If you'd like to check out any of the stuff that I've showed you tonight, I've created it just in that positive way of making everything sound better and happier, in a conversational growth strategy love story. So I've kind of created it like thinking about an interactive platform. If you go to sortedstone.com/conversations, you can go through this interactive kind of flow, if you like. Should work very well for you on mobile, if you're on a mobile device, as well as on a laptop. But the whole idea of the love story is it's taking you through the same way as we go through a love story, from first meeting someone to dating them, to all of that kind of stuff. We should have the same love story with our customers. So what are all the tools that we need, and those bits of conversational marketing, the new parts of the new marketing playbook that are really going to help us feel positive and create a love story with our customers, because they need it more than ever before, because we're all in this together. So check it out, sortedstone.com/conversations. It's built on a platform, by the way, if you do check it out, called Ceros, which is a partnership we have out of the US, which allows you to build interactive platforms like this without using developers. So if you're interested in having something really creative, then check out Ceros, C-E-R-O-S, because that's the platform that we use to build these interactive stories. And again, very educational, very engaging, and a lot of fun as well. So check out that love story. But for today, thank you all so much for joining me for today's masterclass. I hope you've got something out of it. Enjoy the new marketing playbook. Stay safe, stay strong, stay positive, and all the best success with your businesses.
Thank you, Tony. That was great. I think we have a minute for a quick question. Someone who asked, with limited marketing budget, how do we prioritize which marketing channel will yield the most value for a new product or service?
Yeah, so a limited marketing budget, I think, so it's always a challenge for a lot of people, but I think the main thing with a limited marketing budget is really just to, I believe anyway, you can do a lot with less. It's about really thinking about strategy first. So some of that stuff I showed you first about think tanking. So using, companies like us to even come in and run like a small workshop with you to get your team thinking, because a lot of stuff is just that energy to start moving things forward. So having someone come in that can actually workshop, even just that springboard is a low cost way for you to come out with what you currently have and move it into quick wins, major projects, and just kind of get you reset. And also be able to spend, so however limited your budget is, the quick wins will be the way to spend budget without spending a lot of money.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tony. So now pleasure. I think, there's another question here. Sorry, Tony, one more minute.
That's all right. Pleasure.
For a company breaking into a new country where they have no brand presence, what would you recommend as a priority with regards to marketing?
Right. So it would depend a lot on, persona. So first and foremost, like, who is it that you're targeting? So really be clear, especially if you're going into, say, for example, you're going into the US and you've never been into the US before. It's a big country. It's a big market. So start small. Start being very specific about the persona that you want to go after. Because if you go after everybody at once, your marketing budget won't do it. It'll be scattered. You'll be spending it before you can test it. So start small. Start saying, okay, who specifically do I want to go after? So you're really understanding them. And then depending on who they are, like if they're really, really targeted and it's not a big number, then you can use a approach called ABM, which is account-based marketing, where you're going to use things like LinkedIn and places like where you're actually going to find the people by name and company, and then you're going to start to bring them in at the middle of the funnel and nurture them down. If they're a bigger audience, even with that one persona, then you want to start with Facebook marketing or LinkedIn or something like that, something where you're going to do paid media, but you're still going to reach the key market. But again, if you don't understand the persona, you won't understand what platform they really need to be on. What you don't want to do is be across all platforms at once. Yeah. Start with one and start small.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. So we ran a quick poll at the beginning of the masterclass. So the question was, what is your biggest marketing challenge right now? Number one, at 35% of the people said getting a good ROI out of your content creation. Next, 20% of people saying generating traffic and leads, followed by building a recognizable brand name. 15% of the people says personalizing customer communication, and 10% making full use of data. Do you have any comment on the results?
It's probably not surprising. I think, lead generation is always the big one. I think we're all need to, all need more leads. So I think that's a very big one. And I think the interesting one for me was the brand one as well. Like really, it's good to hear that was high up in terms of on people's minds, because a lot of my presentation, as you saw today, was about really being clear on your brand message. Like what is the clear message that you want to get for your brand? Because it's the only thing that's unique to you, and if you're if you don't spend time investing in it and keeping it strong, you just kind of become, one of the same with everybody else. And once you lose that edge, you just fade into the background. It's not easy for customers to see you, for you to rise above everybody else. So investment in the brand, it was good to see that high up there.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. So I think
Thank you, Vanessa.
At 26 minutes to network. So I'm going to advise everyone to click on the networking tab on your left-hand side. See you with who you can connect with. Tony, you can go into the Expo tab.
I will.
If anyone wants to ask Tony a question, please follow him in the Expo tab and connect with him directly. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.